Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another video. This time we will be going over the 15 strongest anime-exclusive monsters from the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime. Now, I know strongest is a pretty subjective term because a monster can be considered very strong in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But not have that many attack points. For instance, a monster that has like 1,000 attack points but with a really good effect might be seen as stronger than a monster that has 3,000 attack points with a mediocre or a bad effect. But for this video, we will only be looking at base attack value stats in terms of strongest monsters. I'll be going over their effects as well, and again, we will be looking at the 15 highest attack point monsters, base attack point monsters, that appeared throughout GX. And you guys let me know, first, if I miss any, because there were a lot of episodes to sift through, a lot of research that had to be done, and let me know also if any of these monsters were printed and added to a certain archetype, if you think they would make the archetype better, or if you think they would just be a really good card to use in a top tier, maybe even a meta deck. Very excited to hear your thoughts on that. But anyway, without further ado, let's begin. The 15 strongest monsters that are anime exclusive, never printed in the TCG or OCG from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Starting this list off is the fusion monster Fossil Machine Skull Convoy. This monster has 2100 attack and appears in episode 138 of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. This is part of Jim Crocodile Cook's Fossil archetype, which as a whole is an anime-exclusive archetype, one that I really would love to see printed one day. The summoning conditions are one rock-type monster in your grave, along with a level 7 or higher machine-type monster in your opponent's grave. This can be kind of tricky to get out if your opponent doesn't have high-level machine-type monsters in their deck, but if you do get it out using Fossil Fusion, since that card allows you to use fusion materials from the grave, this monster can attack up to 3 times as long as your opponent has monsters on the field. For each monster it destroys, you inflict an additional 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. This can be good if your opponent has a lot of low attack point monsters on their side of the field, but I feel like this monster is very situational in terms of getting it onto the field and then being a pretty useful monster. But either way, 15th on the list is Fossil Machine Skull Convoy. Coming in 14th is Arcana Force XII, or Arcana Force 12, the Hangman, which has 2200 attack points. All of the Arcana Force monsters have coin flip effects, usually one effect that is really good, and one effect that is really not so good. Well, that's the case for this level 6 monster. If you flip a coin and it lands on heads, you have to destroy one monster you control, and then lose life points equal to that monster's attack. If the coin flip is tails, you basically do the same thing, except it's to your opponent. I know that many people view Arcana Force as a pretty bad and unreliable deck, mainly because of how luck-reliant it is, but as someone who loves to let luck take the wheel every now and again, I could see it being a fun casual deck to play. Not sure if the Hangman would improve the deck at all, probably not, since it has the same potential self-destruction effect as most of the Arcana Force monsters do, but regardless, with 2200 attack, it is good for 14th on this list. Coming in 13th is Manjome's Assault Cannon Beetle, which yields 2400 attack points. This is a fusion monster which has pretty interesting requirements to summon. You have to control Beatron 1 Beetle Top, Beatron 2 Beetle Turbo, and Beatron 3 Spider Base. By returning these 3 monsters to your deck, you can then summon Assault Cannon Beetle without the use of polymerization. The effect it has is that you contribute one monster to inflict 800 damage to your opponent. As you may have guessed, none of the aforementioned Beetle cards have been printed either in the TCG or OCG, meaning if this Assault Cannon Beetle card was ever to be printed, they would have to release all of these Beatron cards. Either way, it seems like a bit of a hassle to get these 3 cards onto your field just to go into this play. 2400 attack isn't anything crazy high, and the effect of tributing yet another monster you have to control just to inflict 800 points of damage doesn't seem like a great effect. Regardless, the 2400 attack points is the 13th highest anime-exclusive attack points throughout the GX anime. We have 3 anime-only monsters tied for 10th, the first one being Air Fortress Ziggurat with 2500 attack points. This monster actually appeared twice in the original series, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters as well. It makes its GX appearance during episode 16, the episode when Jode duels the Duel Giant. The monster can only be summoned through the magic card Sky Union, which allows you to tribute 3 monsters you control in order to summon Air Fortress Ziggurat. During the end phase, this monster lets you summon a robot token, and as long as you have a token on the field, your opponent can only target the token for attacks. Not a bad effect, but again, tributing 3 monsters you control just to get it onto the field might be a little costly. Another monster tied for 10th with 2,500 attack points is Arcana Force XV or Arcana Force 15, the Fiend. Another one of Sayu's monsters on this list. This level 7 monster has the same gimmicky coin toss effect as all the other Arcana Force monsters. If you get heads, you can select and destroy any monster on the field when this card attacks. If you get tails, when this card attacks, you destroy all monsters on the field. That includes itself, so basically if you get tails, the card destroys itself when it attacks. The heads effect is pretty good, but with a 50-50 chance of getting that ultimate board destruction in tails, it's a bit risky. Then again, if your opponent has an amazing board filled with really good monsters, it might not be a bad idea to destroy the whole board and reset, even though it might leave you wide open. Our final anime-exclusive 2,500 attack point monster is Big Vintage Magnum Mutton. The effect of this monster is simple. During each standby phase, it gains 1,000 attack points, meaning the longer you keep this monster on the field, the more and more and more attack that it gains. With no protection effect though, you'll have to rely on traps and spells to keep this card alive. But I mean, if you can get it through 2 turns, it's going to have 4,500 attack points and your opponent will have a very hard time getting over it. This monster is used in episode 90 by Maitre D. Magnum Mutton goes up to 3,500 attack during this duel, but Asuka's Cyber Angel's effect is able to destroy it, and Maitre D goes on to lose. These last 3 monsters all tie for 10th with 2,500 attack points. Up next on the list is Magic Mirror Spirit Nayuta, which yields 2,600 attack. This monster is used by Serena, Sayu's sister, in episodes 78 and 79 during her duel against Jode and Edo. Nayuta is a light level 6 monster that has a pretty okay effect. When you summon it, if you have a Magic Mirror Spirit Asogi in your grave, you can special summon that monster. Asogi has 1,500 attack and basically the same effect as Nayuta, which lets you special summon a Nayuta in your grave if you normal summon Asogi. It's nice to see these 2 monsters can play off each other and resurrect each other, but other than that, they don't really have much firepower on their own. Still, with 2,600 attack, Nayuta can be tough to beat over. It comes 9th on the list. Coming in 8th place is Conduction Warrior Linear Magnum, which holds 2,700 attack points. I guess Bastion's character wasn't the only thing that they forgot during GX. This anime-only monster was used by Bastion in his duel against Tanya. The summoning conditions require you to sacrifice 1 plus monster and 1 minus monster from your hand or your side of the field to the graveyard. If there happens to be another plus or minus monster on the field when this monster attacks, you can add half of that monster's attack to Conduction Warrior's attack until the end of the turn. The whole gimmick of plus and minus monsters seems really interesting, and the fact that you can get rid of monsters from your hand instead of being on the field to special summon makes it a lot easier to go into than most of the monsters on this list. And with 2,700 attack and an effect that can add attack points while it attacks, it's definitely a solid beater and is good for 8th on this list. Next up, we have 2 monsters tied for 6th, each holding 2,800 attack points. The first one being Genghis Khan, the Emperor Dragon. This monster is used by Orlando when he duels Jode in episode 86. If you have no idea who Orlando is, I don't blame you. One of the only characters that did not ring a bell to me when I read his name. This level 8 Dark Monster has a great effect if you want to deal a potentially devastating amount of damage to your opponent. If this monster is destroyed by card effect, you can choose 1 monster in your opponent's grave and inflict damage to them equal to that monster's attack. For this card to be extremely useful, your opponent will have to have a really strong monster in their grave so that you can deal a good amount of damage. Since this dragon has 2,800 attack, most likely your opponent will have to use card effects to destroy it, since it will be pretty difficult to get over. But if your opponent does manage to get over it with attack points, then this monster basically has no effect, and there are certainly much better level 8 monsters to use than this one, in my opinion. A very situational effect, but in the right situation, with the right conditions, it has the potential to deal a lethal amount of damage. Another monster with 2,800 attack is Brain Dragon. Brain Dragon is used by Dr. Eisenstein when he duels Jode in episode 96 towards the end of season 2. It's funny because when you read the first part of this monster effect, it makes it seem like it has a godly effect. This level 8 monster allows you to draw 3 cards instead of 1 during your draw phase. If it ended right there, I could imagine how insane a monster like this would be. But the next part hurts it. After you draw those 3 cards, you then have to place 2 cards from your hand to the top of the deck in any order. Meaning after the first draw where you get +2, you then are stuck with the same cards and are back to getting 1 card normally from your draw. Moreover, you are unable to utilize all the cards in your hand and the cards that you get from that initial +2 at once, since you are always putting 2 cards from your hand back to the deck. I can see it still being pretty useful. That +2 draw is amazing, but because you are putting most of these cards back to the top of the deck, it kind of balances its usefulness out. Either way, it's a very interesting concept, and these 2 monsters are tied for 6th on the list. Making the 5 spot is Sho's Dragonroid with 2,900 attack points. He uses this in episode 164 during season 4. Unfortunately, the effect for this monster is not so great, and is best used to help other monsters, as we see when it equips itself to Cyber Dark Dragon. The only effect of Dragonroid is that it is treated as a dragon-type monster when it's in the graveyard. While this level 8 wind monster has a great base attack value, the best utilization for it would probably be the way Cyrus used it, by helping boost the attack value of a monster like Cyber Dark Dragon. Still, with an impressive 2,900 attack, Dragonroid is the 5th strongest GX anime-only monster. Taking the 4th spot is our first monster in the 3000s, and that is Plasma Warrior Atome, yet another one of Bastion's monsters. This monster was used in the duel against Society of Light Manjome in episode 82. So remember that Conduction Warrior Linear Magnum monster that was on this list earlier? Well, that monster has another pretty good use. The requirements for getting Plasma Warrior onto the field is that you must tribute a level 7 or higher monster. In the anime, Bastion tributed Conduction Warrior Linear Magnum to get this monster onto the field. You can have this monster's attack points to attack directly, which would give you a 1,500 point direct attack. So if your opponent is hanging on by a thread and has less than 1,500 life points remaining, this monster would be perfect to summon. Other than that, this monster is really only good for being a beater, and with 3,000 attack, it's a pretty powerful monster, and good enough for 4th on this list. Taking the bronze on this list is Demiurge Emma, who yields 3,300 attack. This monster is used by T-Bone when he duels Jode in episode 77. Emma's only effect is that it gains 800 attack for each homunculus token on the field, meaning if you have 2 tokens on the field, which is how many T-Bone had in the anime, Demiurge Emma will have 4,900 attack points. The spell card Blue Moon summons 2 tokens to the field, so summoning Emma and then using this card will boost its attack again to nearly 5,000. This combo can be extremely efficient for getting a massively strong monster onto your field, but without any protection effects, it's pretty vulnerable to spell and trap cards. Either way, Demiurge Emma is not a monster to be messed with, and takes the bronze medal on this list. The runner-up monster is Combat Scissor Beetle with 3,600 attack points. This monster is also summoned during that Manjome Bastion Society of Light duel in episode 82. Moreover, this monster has summoning requirements that has to do with a monster that was previously on this list, that being Assault Cannon Beetle. By using the spell card Front Change, you can sacrifice an Assault Cannon Beetle on your field in order to summon Combat Scissor Beetle, which again has 3,600 attack. Furthermore, each time Scissor Beetle destroys a monster by battle, you can inflict an additional 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. The requirements for getting it onto the field are a little tough, since you need the Front Change spell card, as well as needing to have Assault Cannon Beetle on the field, which you can't get on the field unless you have those 3 Beatron monsters on the field first. Not an easy monster to get out at all, and without anime drawing luck, you probably won't be able to go into this play too often. But regardless, the Combat Scissor Beetle is the 2nd strongest anime-exclusive monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. 2 quick honorable mentions. Cadillato, the Beast of Light, has the same effect as Slifer, where it gains 1,000 attack for each card you have in your hand. It reached 3,000 attack in episode 62. Curry Fiend Rue also has an effect that can boost its attack, and this monster actually got up to 4,300 attack points in episode 63. Both of these are anime-exclusive monsters. Finally, the strongest anime-exclusive GX monster in terms of base attack value is Dark Guardian, who holds a whopping 3,800 attack points. This is also the only level 12 monster on this list, not including the honorable mentions. This monster was actually used very early on in GX during episode 11. The monster was ironically used by characters from the original Yu-Gi-Oh!, Para and Dox, the Paradox brothers, during their tag duel against Jode and Sho. I guess the 2 brothers got tired of the Gate Guardian and felt they had to upgrade. This monster actually has a pretty good effect. it cannot be destroyed by battle. Then again, most people won't be able to get over 3800 attack, so the effect would have been much more lethal if it protected the card from other card effects. The monster can only be special summoned with the spell card Dark Element, and you need to have Gate Guardian in your grave to activate it. Then you pay half of your life points, and boom, Dark Guardian is on the field. Getting Gate Guardian to your grave might be tricky, but it's honestly probably easier to get that to your grave than to summon it, since its summoning conditions are crazy. Either way, Dark Guardian has never been printed, and thus is the strongest anime-exclusive monster that we saw throughout the duration of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. And that about wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my video of the 15 anime-exclusive strongest, again, in terms of highest attack value, monsters that we saw in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Please let me know if you would like to see any of these cards printed, and let me know if there are any cards on this list that if you think were printed would actually make a deck a lot better, or maybe would just be a really good card to run in certain archetypes and certain decks. I'm really actually excited to hear that from you guys. And if I missed any monsters that should have been on this list, let me know. There was a lot of research to do. I got help from a few people as well, so please let me know if I missed any. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons Alexa Baker, Glen McGookin, Jorge Carrillo, and James Rose, and to my Diamond tier patron bouldergeist, and to my Egyptian God tier patron Syn Cloud and Odd Eyes Vaughn. Huge thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Cannot tell you how much it helps me out, and a huge thank you to everyone who just watches these videos, because without you guys, I would not be able to make content. So please let me know all your thoughts down below. I will talk to you in the comment section. Be sure to check out my channel for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime content. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.